Now, some of you have been skeptical of the practice of releasing a fuck ton of DLC right after the game is released, and I both see the side of the players here, and I understand the position that the Creative Assembly takes, because the reality is that DLC released as quickly as possible will sell more. The Creative Assembly is a company, they are in it to make money. Now, I thought I'd just give you a quick preview, like I did with the Langobards, of the new factions. And while I have tested most of these units that are interesting under different circumstances, I haven't tested all of them. And before I give my opinion based on testing and trying out these factions in different games, I won't be making a comprehensive review of the factions. I will wait until I have gotten more experience with the factions and with the units, because that's how I like to do things. Now, let's see, let's just make it summer here. What I do here is you're going to be able to take a look at the rosters. I'm going to take a look at the units on the battlefield, and just a quick overview of what they can bring. Now, the common denominator for these Celtic factions, the Celts and the Picts and the Abdanians, so Caledonians, Abdanians and Picts, they have, they have a very big infantry roster. They have a lot of infantry, very lacking, no shock cavalry, no melee cavalry with a bonus versus cavalry, so that is a challenge. And of course their skirmisher cavalry doesn't have Parthian shot, but they all have guerrilla deployment. And I'll show you a pretty funny battle afterwards where both players use their guerrilla deployment to deploy behind the enemy. But yeah, let's just go to the battlefield to have a look at these units. Now, my prediction from having played a few games with these factions and testing a few of their units is that even though they have the interesting, I'm not going to say interesting, I'm going to say even though they have the idiotic guerrilla deployment ability, they are going to struggle, because they are outmatched in skirmishing, they are outmatched in cavalry. While they do have very good infantry, as we know, Attila is not about the infantry. So here you have the ridiculousness of guerrilla deployment. Now you will see what I mean by that in a battle I will be uploading afterwards, because the deployment zones overlap. So my opponent, you can see how close I can get here with all of these factions, and that is so you can basically deploy and start firing almost right away. You can charge almost right away. So your opponent is going to have to guess whether he's going to deploy to the front, like people usually do. It's probably going to be safer to deploy in the center here. But the problem is, though, you have very weak cavalry, and you are going to be at the skirmish disadvantage. But here we have the Celtic Spears, Celtic Band, Celtic Woodrunners, Pictish Swords, Celtic Berserkers, Pictish Berserkers, and these Berserkers look quite a bit cooler than the Nordic Berserkers. The Nordic Berserkers look like a placeholder. Here we have the Gaze Hounds, Celtic Nobles, or should I say Germanic Nobles, Celtic Warriors, cool looking unit, Black Blades, yeah, I'm not a huge fan here. Nope, definitely not. Growling Dogs, Sighthound Spears. Here we have the Mormire Cavalry. Decent cavalry, but they have swords, which is kind of an issue. Mounted Spear Raiders, Skirmish Cavalry, which of course is a problem. But for being Skirmish Cavalry, they do have a lot of health. They are slow, though. Celtic Bows, Celtic Levy, Celtic Spears, and you can see by the faction icon which faction these belong to, so I just won't go over it. Celtic Brigands, Celtic Axe Warriors, Pictish Axes, and Axes have a 5 bonus against infantry now, not that it helps them much. So those were all the Pictish units. Now here we have, yeah, Gaze Hounds. There will be some overlap here. Celtic Axe Warriors, Celtic Axe Band. A lot of similarities between these factions. Scottish Teachers, Celtic Warband. Women with crazy hair also. Royal Archers, no, they do not have 200 range, but they do have a lot of health. Only 35. Only 35 missile damage. That is bad. Celtic Levy. Wolfhound Spearmen, and do they actually have Wolfhounds, or do they have... Of course they don't have Irish Wolfhounds. That would make sense if they were called Wolfhound units. Wolfhound Spearmen. I don't know when the Irish Wolfhound was bred, if it was in use at this time, but it would be cool if they had it anyway. Celtic Warriors, nod back to Rome 2, but no precursors, so they have gotten worse since then. Horse Whisperers, peculiar unit. Cateran Brigade, Celtic Skirmishers, Celtic Berserkers, and even these guys look better than the Norse Berserkers. Fianna, Nordic reskin. So the Celts are sort of the bastard love child of a Nordic faction and a Germanic faction. Celtic Brigade, Celtic Archers. So as you can see, they do have a lot of units. Celtic Berserkers, yeah, but there's a lot of overlap as well. So they have the same copy-paste problem that Gallo Glasses, they are almost indistinguishable from well, these units are very similar. Some cool shield designs though, I'll give them that. But yeah, all of these factions have the same problem of lacking really good melee cavalry and lacking anti-cavalry options. They do have the cheapest crossbows in the game, but they do not have barrage and flaming. They do, however, barrage and precision. They do, however, have flaming, so they can definitely do a lot of damage. Very short range though, low health, all of that. So as you can see here, the main focus of the Tin Isle factions lies in melee infantry, and it lies in relatively cheap melee infantry, guerrilla deployment, skirmishing. But in my opinion, they are outmatched heavily in cavalry and in not necessarily in melee infantry, because they do have a very nice selection of melee infantry, but they do have a distinct lack of good shock infantry, and they will probably lose to any decent shock infantry and cavalry and skirmish. So your essential meta, like Burgundian or Langobard, I think they are going to struggle against those types of factions unless you pull off some serious MLG stuff with guerrilla deployment, but I don't really see that happening either. So there you have it, a quick preview of the units. Now I'll play a shitload of games, have a look in the database, and do some more testing before I make a faction video about each of these factions, which I'm going to do. Strength and honor.